The town of Middleburg is preserving Asbury Church as a vital cornerstone of local Black history before irreplaceable stories vanish. Founded in 1787 by Revolutionary War officer and statesman Levin Powell, Middleburg grew along the busy Ashby Gap trading route between Alexandria and Winchester. Its central location gave the town its name, and over time, it became known for both its rich history and countryside charm. During the Civil War, Middleburg witnessed two skirmishes as part of the Gettysburg Campaign, and the conflict left a lasting mark on the community. By the early 1900s, the town began to attract visitors drawn to its rolling hills and traditions of fox hunting and steeplechase racing. Amid this evolving landscape stood the Asbury Church. Built in 1829 for the white Methodist congregation, it was later abandoned in 1858 and, during the Civil War, repurposed as a hospital and morgue. In 1864, the Asbury Church was reborn as the spiritual and cultural heart of Middleburg's African American community, a symbol of resilience that continues to shape the town's soul today.
It was like your school, your church, your house, within a block and a half. And it was like you got married there. You were buried from there. Your kids went there. Some people met their spouse there.
You greeted people with a hug, and you were happy to see each other, and you just felt like you belonged, or that was a place to be.
They came from Warrenton. They came from Leesburg. They came from Percival. So it was people that everybody knew you were going to be there on Sunday. So it was like a family reunion, to sort of speak.
The churches and the community center, what I could say the three of them together was a magnet for the African Americans in this area. Everything happened at the Marshall Street Center or Asbury Church or Shiloh.
These are not stories of victims, but of victors. Today, their voices rise with steady resolve. These stories must be preserved before they vanish forever.
When I saw that church boarded up and everything, I thought, what's wrong with the Methodist Conference? Why are they letting this happen?
My mom passed away in 91, and that was a big transition for us because she was the church. She was very active in the church. When she passed away, there was no one to pick up the baton. And so it just started dwindling and dwindling. I would have liked my son to grow up in that kind of atmosphere.
And I want them to pass that on to their children and their grandchildren. And you should be able to tell them what happened in your community and what it was like. Everything wasn't peaches and cream.
Though physical spaces of Black community life may be gone, vibrant memories of gatherings, worship, and resilience live on.
When you're from Middleburg, we have to talk about the differences. We have to talk about the differences between the white and the colored. You simply have to do that because when I was coming up, it was two classes. It was the rich and it was the poor. Windy Hill was an area of town that was looked down on. It was considered the slums of Middleburg. It motivated me to not be that way, not to be drinking, not to be having babies, not to be beat up by my husband.
And when you grew up Black in Middleburg, regardless of what community in Middleburg you came from, Black community, all Blacks knew each other. Lincoln Road was a Black community. Windy Hill was a Black community. And we say Marshall Street was a Black community.
But a lot of them in the Asbury area, and what they call Bureau Corner down there, a lot of African Americans, every house down in that way was African Americans around Asbury and Shiloh. It was all an African American community.
All these subcultures, what I'm calling them, of Blacks would get together in the Black community center for parties, for weddings, for gospel singings, for whatever. Dances. We used to have dances there that went on only Friday night because Saturday night after 12 was Sunday, so you couldn't have dancing on Sunday. We had black music, we had bands that would come in to the community center and play. There's no industry here in Middleburg. The only jobs that you had were always subservient to the white, always.
You knew your place. That's the way I can describe it. You could work there, but you couldn't go visit there. You knew your place. Yeah.
In the store, the clerk might be a little rude to you. She'd be nice to the white kid. When she looks at you, it's like, come on up here, pay for your stuff. So it was a different world when you went into those worlds where we know we were treated different.
My mother was a domestic day worker, and she worked for the Darlings, and the Darlings had a camera shop, which later became the Fun Shop in Middleburg. They also raised Cocker Spaniels and sold them. So in 1956, well, in all years, they would display pictures of the kids from Middleburg in their window. They would put their graduation pictures in their window. So my mother asked Mrs. Darling, she said, my Barbara and Barbara Smith are graduating. Why wouldn't you put their pictures on display? And Mrs. Darling says, oh, Edna, you know, I would love to, but that would really be like the end of my business. And I just felt like they really don't care about us. We're just good to do the day work or whatever they want. And I just felt that with the way the world was going at the time, things were changing and everything, somebody would have to be the first to do it. Why not you?
I saw that there was a need, and therefore that's the reason why I got involved personally into integrating Middleburg.
That change came through quiet acts of courage. In the early 1960s, Reverend Swan led a small group of men into the heart of segregated Middleburg.
I think the NAACP and somebody else had approached him, and I think 3 or 4 of his other friends. They wanted someone that did not work in Middleburg at the time.
When they went to 3 different restaurants, and they sat in each restaurant for 10 minutes, and then they got up and left. And from what I understand, y'all were called names that I don't want to say on tape, and people looked at them real hard, and you reported back to the NAACP and a couple other people. 2 weeks later when they went back, correct me, Dad, the people did say that you did get served. And y'all were really full, but you kept on walking. And they went to 3 different restaurants, and they were served each time. So then between those 2 weeks, somebody high you up and made a change.
The restaurants, the New York Cafe, later known as the Coach Stop, the Red Fox, and the drugstores, quietly integrated. No headlines, no fanfare, just the patient work of changing hearts and opening doors.
Well, we went in, therefore, of experienced some of the things that you wouldn't have experienced if you hadn't ventured out to do that within the town of Middleburg.
It's a great sense of pride to know that my brother was able to do that during that time. So it gives you great pride, and to know that that was done, and that I think it was said that Middleburg was one of the first towns to be integrated at that time in the area. Saying Leesburg, different Purcellville, all of those. Middleburg, because of what he and his friends did, they were one of the first towns to be integrated, and it's great pride.
I asked him, I said, Dad, why didn't you get recognition that somebody wanted to tell your story? He says, I was concerned about my family. I want my wife to be safe. I want you, my kids, I want y'all to be safe. So I didn't want recognition for what I did. I just wanted change.
When the world outside demanded that you know your place, there was one place that said, you belong here. When society tried to diminish your voice, there was a sanctuary where it could rise in song.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. 'Twas blind, but now I see.
The floor gave out at Asbury, and so when we got it up and looked, there were trees all across. They had like turned into, I'd say, it's almost like metal. They were so old, and the bark was still on the trees. It was like logs that connected the trees to, so that it made a foundation.
The walls in Asbury are 18 inches thick, and they got stones in there, and they used plaster, and that plaster was mixed with horse hair and hog hair to hold it onto the walls. So when you walk through there, it's like when you walk through the Capitol or the White House or something, you got something right here at home that you can be proud of.
Like those ancient logs beneath the floorboards, hidden but unbreakable. The stories of Asbury's people form the foundation upon which this community was built. Each storyteller's unique Asbury connection contributes to a rich tapestry revealing generations of Black experience in Middleburg.
Getting up, going up on the second floor, ringing that church bell to summon the people to church. I mean, these bells rang at Asbury and Shiloh and this church. The church bells rang every Sunday morning.
My special day in Middleburg was waking up, smelling my mom's Perkin coffee, then getting up, getting dressed for church, going to Shiloh Church, then leaving the church, going home, changing my clothes, getting with a lot of people on Lincoln Road, and down we would go to the community center, and we would play ball and just watch and communicate and talk to one another. Because people came to the community center, they just didn't come from Middleburg.
That's what I love about those days is that, there was no electronics. I mean, I think we may have had a battery-operated toy, but life was simple, and it was happy, and I have fond memories of Asbury, just because when we went there, we were with our friends and family. The kids we went to school with, cousins, Phyllis Cook, the Robinson family, the Hatcher family,
Churches did not have services every Sunday. The Methodist Church was first and third Sunday. The Baptist Church was second and fourth Sunday. So if you wanted to go to church every Sunday, you went to both churches. It was just a blessing. And we enjoyed the fellowship with each other, just to see these people week after week, month after month, and to see them. It gave you a desire to want to keep going.
Pretty much everybody knew everybody, so if you went to that community center and did something wrong, somebody would see you. And I think it was a feeling of also being protected because, somebody was always watching.
When I would walk into Asbury, there were people there that welcomed you. I felt wanted, and I felt needed because I was teaching Sunday school and I was singing in the choir.
I kind of made it a youth choir because I brought my cousins in to sing. Our theme song was "Oh Happy Day," and my grandmother would always request it when we had big things at church.
I love the voices. They were some of the singingest people at Asbury. Beautiful tenors, basses, altos. Coming to choir practice was just a great thing.
It was something about being in a choir and everybody knowing everybody that if you made a mistake, you know, you just overlook it. You know, you're nervous or, you know, what have you. Going to church, going to Asbury, it was something that you wanted to do because you put on your Sunday best and you went to worship, and it was a thing of getting together with other people.
When my husband and I got married, which will be 50 years this September, we had our reception at Marshall Street Community Center. I remember going to dances there. I remember going to parties there.
You would have choir concerts there. Virginia State College Choir would come, Hampton. All of these would come through. Big cultural events for the community. They would have dances at the community center. Shirley and Lee, Ike and Tina Turner, Little Richard, all of these folks, $1.25. And the people would come from all around, not just from Middleburg and Leesburg, but from Purcellville, Hamilton, even from Charlestown, West Virginia.
Saturdays were fun, but not as fun as Sunday, because Sunday was a time for family. So we would go to church, then we would change our clothes, go to my grandmother's, and she lived right there, and then we would be at the community center. The grass going to the court was like, we called them the loop-de-loop hills. They went down like that. So everybody would sit on that hill and watch basketball games. It was just like the NBA playoffs to us. Every year just before Christmas, around the fall, we would do things to raise money, and one of them would be a thing where we raised money selling baked goods, and we did it like an auction. And that was really good. My uncle would run that. So he would, you would bet on a cake and see if you could win this cake. And it got to be a competition for certain things that you knew certain people would bake. Like Miss Carrie made really good pound cake, so we want this pound cake, that kind of thing.
They had what they used to call lawn parties. They had made homemade ice cream, and they would sell it. They did crafts. They had this auction, and it was the funniest thing.
Well, I do remember also as a very young child, the gas station, the Esso gas station was in the center of town. Right now it's where, I think it's called Tremello, little restaurant is. It's right in that little nook. But that gas station was a place, Mr. Poston ran it, and a lot of Saturday night, everybody who played an instrument, banjo, guitar, or whatever, juice harp they called it, whatever, they would all be out in front of there playing music. I hear a lot of people talk about how that was a great place to hang out for the older gentlemen in town on Saturday nights.
The community started changing and people started moving away because Middleburg was not really growing. So as families grew, they had to move to find housing. It wasn't as convenient to come all the way back to Middleburg to church, and so people started dropping off.
There was no place here that you could make a decent living if you didn't want to be a maid or cook. All of the younger black people left. You could go 25 miles and you could make 4 times more money in a day than you could make sometimes in a week here.
I miss that closeness of people just looking out for one another. You didn't have to ask them. They just had that love, that respect, the kindness, the passion.
Well, I hope that when they read the history of Asbury and of what it went through and what it meant to the community, that it was a struggle to do it, but they didn't give up the fight. They kept going. There was the faith in God that they did this, and they were doing this.
The history of this place is resilience, that the black people stood together, fought together, lived together, loved together, and kept this town going.
Asbury Church made me who I am today. Some of the things that I've learned there, I took to where I'm going now. The same little rituals, doing a pledge allegiance to the flag, pledge allegiance to the Christian flag, pledge allegiance to the Bible. All of that was what Rosa Carter started. We still do it. This July, we will have Vacation Bible School. It will be that same way.
And when the children come through on tours and they can say, my mother went there, or so-and-so went there, I think that's important.
I am Middleburg.
I am Middleburg.
I am Asbury.
I am Middleburg.
I am Asbury.
The story of Asbury is the story of Middleburg itself, built on foundations stronger than stone, carried forward by voices proud, vibrant, and unapologetically true. In preserving these stories, we preserve not just history, but the blueprint for hope.
And we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun. We've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first began.